Episode 6 of Sterling Point picks up with Annie awakening at Rory's place. Having slept with him in her drunken state, she's shocked and hurriedly gets dressed, leaving in the morning without even speaking to him. It's rather awkward when Ellis shows up alongside her father. Annie hurriedly rushes off the island and decides they should talk at dinner. She's embarrassed by what's happened before eventually stumbling back to Gordon's. Ramona offers Annie some comfort and is pretty shocked when she finds out she slept with Rory. Annie explains how she's never done anything so spontaneous in her life, except coming to Sterling Point in episode 1 obviously, and vents to her sister about this. As they talk things through, Annie realises she's not 100% sure if she actually used a condom with Rory. Ramona though definitely didn't sleep with Una, but the pair have been getting on like a house on fire. Things are awkward when Stephen sits down with the kids to discuss the island-sized elephant in the room. Stephen explains he kept this whole place a secret because he didn't want the kids to tarnish the image they had of their mother. He never wanted them to think Goldie cheated and had an affair. Stephen explains how he and Goldie had been trying to get pregnant for nearly 6 years, and they did IVF but struggled the whole time. Eventually they separated, but it was only temporary. During this respite, they got a call about the twins, but Goldie didn't want to live in New York anymore. Stephen tried to give Goldie space to figure out why she was so unhappy, but that only worked to push her further away. Stephen didn't file for divorce though, apparently Annie did. She also refused to bring the kids home, so Stephen took steps to honour the initial agreement. Annie is not happy with this and lashes out at her father, before bringing up how Ramona is Joe's kid. She justifies her mother's affair and eventually things sour between them. In the midst of this, the gang show up to collect Maple from summer camp. She casually retorts how she's had her period, prompting Una to get her a period crown to celebrate. They eventually wind up dancing around the fire and howling in the night. Elsewhere, Ellis returns and catches up with Annie. It's super awkward between them as Annie brings up how she's not dating Rory. She questions Ellis over whether he cares for her, and he chuckles, bringing up how he can't think of a single thing he doesn't dislike about her. It's a pretty suave line and there's a moment between them, but Ellis doesn't capitalise on it. Meanwhile, Stephen shows up to see Joe on the dock and the pair hash it out. Stephen calls Joe and the island a distraction, but Joe bites back, bringing up how he showed in the middle of the night with a lawyer to get the kids back. Joe explains that Goldie didn't love Stephen and isn't even sure if she ever did. The pair get into it, leading to Stephen getting a black eye for his troubles. He then winds up over at Denise's place. Now, she obviously has her own agenda here with the island, but she plays up the role of concerned citizen for Stephen's sake. Elsewhere, Annie reflects on her experiences getting her period and brings up to Ellis how she used to schedule and go to the doctor once a year on her birthday because she thought this was the thing you were supposed to do. Annie feels like she was robbed of a childhood and needs to be fixed. Ellis listens to all of this and tells her she doesn't need to fix herself. The pair eventually lie under the stars together, with Ellis telling her how to build a canoe to help ease her mind and stop her spiralling. In the morning, Joe comes under fire from his wife when she finds the guardianship letter about Ramona. She's understandably pissed at him and questions exactly what sort of man he is. Elsewhere, Ramona and Annie finally seem to be on the same page, and there's a really nice moment where they're all on the boat together heading back to Gordon's. Unfortunately, everything goes amiss when they go back inside the house and find Denise, Stephen and Connor waiting. Along with bringing up how Joe is Ramona's father, Stephen demands they leave and go back to New York. Ramona is shocked and especially confronts Annie, given they promised no more secrets between them. Una curses them out and leaves too, but Ramona has had enough. Episode 7 of Sterling Point starts with the gang trying to find Ramona. She's gone walkabouts and nobody seems to know where she is. Annie blames herself for keeping these massive secrets from her, while Denise shrugs it off and believes Ramona will rock up eventually. Rory is not happy with the blasé attitude of his mum, while Una is worried and believes Ramona may have disappeared again like last time. Despite all these early concerns, it doesn't last long, approximately 5 minutes of runtime, as Ramona rocks up later when Una finds her. She encourages Ramona not to dip out and eventually tells her that she loves her. Meanwhile, Joe realises that Ellis has been stealing cash from customers and confronts him about this. He's clocked up a solid $7,345 from this scheme, and Joe demands answers. Well, Ellis admits he's been doing all of this on purpose, believing they're undercharging customers. He's keeping all of this extra money as a safety blanket, a way to help them if everything goes pear-shaped with the business. They have a lot of stuff to fix around here and nowhere near enough income to cover everything. Ellis eventually storms off, leaving Joe to spiral. This time though, Ellis takes the initiative when he heads over to see Annie, pulling her toward him into an embrace. The pair finally kiss, and there's a lot more chemistry with these two than there was with Rory. Ramona heads home after and makes up with Annie after their fallout, admitting she's thinking of getting Joe to sign some paperwork to waive away guardianship duties. Meanwhile, Rory starts to spiral as he talks to Connor about Annie's feelings towards Ellis. When Annie pops over, looking for her dad, the pair awkwardly smoke weed together and talk about Rory leaving Sterling Point. He's not starting school for a couple of weeks, but he's heading over to the dorms early all the same. He offers Annie a chance to get into the same college and set her back on the path she had before she left for Sterling Point. However, the island has clearly changed her, and Annie has decided she's going to stick around at Sterling Point and possibly live here. Rory doesn't take the news particularly well, and shades of Stephen come through in his standoffish nature. Ramona eventually heads back to see Joe here, who explains that he wanted to respect what Gordon wanted. He had just lost Goldie, and Ramona was the closest thing he had to her. He knew Gordon would give her the best life possible, so he kept her at arm's length this whole time. The original plan was that Goldie and Joe were going to leave their partners and be together and raise the kids as a family. When Goldie passed though, they all believed this was the best thing for them, but deep down both Gordon and Joe were consumed by guilt. Gordon did his best to try and connect them together though. After hearing him out, Ramona has heard enough and hands over documents for Joe to sign away guardianship duties. Joe refuses though, wanting to fix what's broken between them. Ramona refuses to listen to him until she finally reads Gordon's final letter back home that night. The tears flow as she realises what Joe's saying isn't too far from the truth. When Ramona speaks to Annie that night, she mentions colour blindness and it gets her thinking. She confronts Stephen with a kit and believes he might actually be her biological dad. To Sterling Point returns with another long couple of episodes. Episode 6 certainly dragged its heels with a lot of drama, which seriously lacked the oomph needed to make its most dramatic plot elements stand out. Now, while a lot of the early episodes centered around the drama surrounding Ramona and Annie, the whole island inheritance has kind of been swept under the rug for subplots that don't move the plot forward. I mean, episode 5 focused on Maple and her getting her period, but then episode 6 never really takes that much further. The dialogue tries to overexert itself into this quirky mesh of ideas, but aside from the drama at the end of episode 5 and episode 4, there's very little here to whet the appetite. The love triangle at this point is barely a triangle, and there's just no tension between either of the boys. That's before mentioning how Connor's character growth has kind of been stifled after what appeared to be some progress in episode 4. Now, with the penultimate episode, it sees our gang embroiled in a drama surrounding Ramona's past and what happened to Goldie. However, we're no closer to finding out what's going to happen with the island, like I said, but we do know that Ramona is starting to second guess her true parentage. If Stephen does end up being her real dad, then that entire chat she had with Joe chewing him out was for absolutely nothing, and surely she'll owe him a massive apology, right? If Stephen does happen to be her biological father though, it'll be an interesting development no doubt, but the show never takes any of its more dramatic beats all that seriously, so it's hard to know whether there'll actually be long-standing ramifications if that is the case. As an example of what I'm talking about, 5 minutes after the drama involving Una being worried for Ramona's safety and spiralling in her houseboat, she suddenly then switches to quirky humour and quips while looking to drive one of Rory's cars in the garage. It's utterly bizarre how quickly that changes because it's literally between the two scenes, and this happens constantly through the show, with moments like last episode's bombshell in episode 6 basically resolved immediately. With the finale up next, hopefully Sterling Point can knock it out of the park. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.